All right, 1.1, rectangular coordinates. All right. So I'm getting out my lightsaber. This way, x's go. And this way is positive. So if you have a positive x, it goes this way. If you have a negative x, it goes left. Positive y goes? Negative y goes down. Very good. All right. So this is quadrant what?
1.
This one?
2.
No. This one's 4. Good job. All right. So 1 and
2.
and very nice.
Good morning,
All right.
students. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We should throw this in the recording. They're not getting this at home.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Have a great day.
All right. So we're going to plot these points. What quadrant is negative 1, 2 in? Second quadrant. So we go negative 1 to the left and 2 up. 3, 4. What quadrant? First quadrant. So we go 3 and 4. 0, 0 is the middle. It's called the what? Origin. That's right. That isn't a Cartesian plane. It's our origin. 3, 0 is located along my what axis? X-axis. What is an x-axis also known as? What? Y equals 0. Very nice. So an x-axis is y equals 0. So a y-axis would be known as the line what? X equals 0. And what quadrant do we have as negative 2, negative 3? 3. So it goes right here, right? No, it doesn't. It goes right here. All right. Good in the hood? Fantastic. All right. So now we're going to the Pythagorean theorem, or the Pythagorean formula and the distance formula. They are one and the same. They're basically the same thing, just a different way to look at it. So the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What does a and b represent? Your what? Your legs. And c represents your
Base.
hypotenuse. All right, it's like a hippo. It's the hypotenuse. And where's the hypotenuse located all times?
The line.
Opposite the right angle. Very nice. All right. It doesn't really matter if your short leg or long leg is A or B. Technically, your short leg should be A, but it doesn't really matter. And then this is your distance formula. All right. Your distance formula is square root, the difference of x's squared, plus the difference of your y's squared. And these things are exactly the same thing because if you square root c, if you square root both sides, guess what you get? You get the distance formula. So they go together hand in hand. Braden, I love your hair.
Thank you.
So on this one, we have point P of 1, negative 2. What quadrant is that located in?
The first one. No, it's like the fourth.
Fourth one. Q is 8, 9, which is located in the what quadrant?
First.
First quadrant. Ooh, that's good. Ooh, that's nasty. All right, and then A is what? In the what quadrant again? 5, 3 is the first quadrant as well. So we need to figure out which one's closer. And the way we do that is we need to figure out what the distance is from AP and AQ. So we'll do AP first. So we're going to do this distance formula. So it's the square root of, what is the distance between A and P? So what is the difference of my x values? 4. So I'm just going to say 4 squared. Now, I know back in Algebra 1 and maybe even in Algebra 2, you were like, we need to do x2 minus x1. Does it really matter which way you go? No, it doesn't matter because what are you going to do to it? You're going to square it. So it doesn't matter if it equates to a negative or a positive because when you square it, it's going to go away. And so now what's the difference between my x, or my y's I mean? Try again. Negative 2 to 3. 5. So now I have 5 squared. So I end up with 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is, we add them together, we get square root of 41. Let's do the distance between A and Q now. So now I have AQ. So what's the difference of my x's between A and Q? So 8 and 5, what's the difference between it? 3. So now I have 3 squared. Plus, what's the difference of my y values? 9 and 3, I end up with 6. So I have 6 squared. So 3 squared is 9. 6 squared is, we add them together, we get 45. So now I have the square root of 45. So which one is closer to A? Is it P or is it Q? P is closer. Because square root of 41 is less than square root of 45. Good in the hood? So this next one, I need to show that these points are vertices of a right triangle. And I always like to sketch a graph to figure out kind of where they're located before we do anything. You don't have to be exact with it. 2, 1 is in my what quadrant? First. Now, it doesn't have a name for it yet, so what do you want to call 2, 1? I don't really care. A. We're basic. All right. And so 4, 0, where's that located? So on the what axis? X-axis. What do you want to call him? You call him B. 5, 7 goes a little higher. What do you want to call him? Wow, you guys are so boring. A lot of people choose their like initials and stuff. All right, so we have a triangle going there, and I need to figure out if it forms with a right triangle. So I need to find the distances of all of them. So let's find AB first. Why not? Doesn't really matter which side you find first, but let's find AB first. So the square root of, what's the difference between my x's? Between A and B. What are my x's of A and B? 2 and 4. So my difference of my x's are what? 2. So now I have 2 squared. Plus, what are my difference of my y values between A and B? 1. So now I have 1 squared. So 2 squared is 4. 1 squared is 5. So I end up with square root of 5. Next, I'll do, what do you want? BC or AC? Which one do you want? What? You want BC? All right, let's do BC. So let's do BC. So what are my difference of my x's between B and C? 1, because it's 4 to 5, right? So I have 1 squared. Plus, what's the difference of my x's? 7. So 1 squared is? 1 squared is 1. 7 squared is? Add them together. We get square root of 50. All right. And now I'm going to do AC. So what's the difference between my x's of A and C? 2 to 5 makes what? 3. So now I have square root of 3 squared. And then plus 6 squared. So 3 squared is 9. 6 squared is 36. So we get square root of 45. Now, which one do I think is my hypotenuse? Which one? Which one? BC. Why? Why is it's the biggest? Okay, the largest side should be your hypotenuse. So now I'm going to use the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So square root 5 and square root 45 should be my what? My what? My legs. All right, so now I have square root 40 or square root 5 squared plus square root of 45 squared is equal to square root of 50 squared. Now, when I square a square root, those are inverse operations, so they cancel. So now I have 5 plus 45 is equal to 50. And in most cases, is that true? Yeah, so what did we just know? What did we just prove by that? That's a right triangle. Exactly. So, do these make a right triangle? Oui. Yes. All right. All right, midpoint formula. So we're back to algebra 1 still. So your midpoint formula is your x's added together divided by 2. And then comma, your y's added together divided by 2. Now, I'm not a big fan of just like memorizing a formula, as you could tell by the distance formula, because like who cares which x value comes first? Same thing here. what is the midpoint formula actually? I take two things, add them together, divide by 2. What am I doing? What? I'm finding an average. So a midpoint formula is actually an average of your x's and an average of your y's. That's what it really is. All right? So that's what we're doing here. I need a reader. Thanks, Max, for reading here. Can you read this for us right here?
Show that the quadrilateral with vertices 1, 2, 4, 4, 5, 9, and 2, 7 is a parallelogram by providing that its two diagonals bisect each other.
All right. Does anybody remember from geometry? What does bisect mean?
Two into that.
Cut into 2 equal parts. Yeah, good. All right. So we need to figure out if the midpoint is the same. And if the midpoint's the same of those two, then it's a parallelogram. All right? So which one do you want to find first? RP or SQ? SQ. So we're going to find the midpoint of SQ. All right? So I'm looking at S and I'm looking at Q. I have 4 as an x value and I have 2 as an x value. So what's the midpoint? What is my middle of 4 and 2?
But it would be 1.
X is 3. All right, so 3 is my x value. Now, you could do 4 plus 2, which is what? 6. Divide by 2 and you get what? 3. That's totally cool. Now let's do the y's. So now I have 4 and I have 7. What is in the middle of 4 and 7? And I do not want a decimal. 11 halves. Beautiful. All right, so 11 halves is the y value that's in between there. And the way we found it is we added up our y values, 4 and 7. We get what? Right? 11. That's my favorite number. And then you divide by 2, and you get 11 halves. All right, so now we're going to find the midpoint of P and R. So I have 1 and 5 for my x values here. So what's in the middle of 1 and 5? 3. 1 plus 5 is 6. Divided by 2, you get 3. And then I have 2 and 9, 11 halves again. All right. So, is it a parallelogram?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because why? The diagonals were both what?
The same. Equal.
They're not equal. We didn't do the distance formula. They both bisected. They both got bisected. All right? So, it is a parallelogram. All right? Maddie, can you read for us? Thanks.
In exercises 65 and 66, use the graph which shows the average retail price of 1 gallon of whole milk from 1996 to 2007.
All right. 65.
Approximate the highest price of a gallon of whole milk shown in the graph. When did this occur?
All right. What's the highest price of milk on this graph? In 2007. All right, so it occurred in 2007. Sounds good. What was the price of this milk? 385. 390. Which one do you want? 385. All right, let's do 385. All right. So it cost $3.85 in 2007. All right. Next, approximate the percent change in the price of milk from 1996 to the highest price shown in the graph. What is percent change, though? We're going back to Algebra 1 here. What is percent change?
How much, a percentage of how much something increase or decrease?
Good. It has to have an increase or decrease. I like that. But how do you find it out? How do you find out? Did you guys pass Algebra 1? Most of you? Yeah.
Is it when the whole value changes? Like of the whole, like if you're like, if it's 2% out of 100,
Okay.
It's 200, then it'll be 4%.
So again, it's an increase or a decrease of what we started with. All right, so the percent change, you might want to write this down, is the amount of change over the original, what you started with. All right, so percent change is the amount of change over the original amount of what you started with. And in this case, when is my original amount on this little graphy graph?
Is it the one in the earlier period in time?
Which is when?
19, I can see it.
In 1996. All right, in 1996, that is my original amount. Okay, because that's where we started. All right, so in 1996, how much was my milk?
It looks like
It's an ish. How much was my milk?
80 cents. Looks like.
What?
I think it's 80 cents. It looks like the second line of the graph. Good too. Or the third.
So right here, right?
Yeah, right there.
How much is it? Emily, how much do you think that is? $2.75. I'll go with it. All right, so $2.75 in 1996. All right, so it went up to how much?
385.
$3.85. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say $3.85 minus $2.75. What did I just do when I put that on the numerator, the top of my fraction? That is my what? The amount of change. And how much was the amount of change there?
It was $1.10.
$1.10. Over what is my original amount?
The 275.
$2.75. That's what we started with. So I need to do 110 divided by 275. And so when I do that in my handy dandy calculator, what do I get? Now you can use a calculator. Go ahead. All right, so what do we get? We get 0.4. Now what did that tell me?
4% increase or 40%?
A 40% increase. Now, most people will get to 40% on their quiz on Friday. However, guess what they forget to tell me? That it increased. Great, it changed 40%. Fantastic. Which way did it go? All right.
Up.
It went up. And the way to specify that it went up is you have to say what? It's an increase. All right, so if you want full credit, you need both. All right? This 40% just says, well, it changed 40%, but how much? All right, it changed 40% increase. Now, in those amount of years, do you think that my salary has changed 40% up? Do you think it's gone up 40%? Do you think it has? It hasn't. It hasn't. Milk has gone up 40%. So what they're saying is milk is more important than me. Now you guys drink almond milk. You know what that is? Crushed up almonds with water. It's not milk. You can't milk an almond.
Are you sure? Have you tried it?
Yes. And there's your homework. Write it down. Enjoy. Have fun.